All right, everybody, welcome back to the Heath Barn. This episode coming out a day late, so I apologize for that. I'll just say this. I hate technology. There were technical issues, and they weren't even my fault. So, I was very frustrated yesterday, but again, it's a day late, but it's worth the wait because it is an amazing episode, and it is with another former Illini. It is another two-parter, and this is part one with Ahmad Starks, former Illini guard. This episode was just amazing, man. He gives very, very well thought out answers, but he gives, or not answers, I mean, we're talking, but he talks about growing up in Chicago, talks about playing ball as a youngster in a league that was very, very interesting, that got him loving basketball. Then we go through middle school, high school, and he gets through part of college in this first episode. Now, he tells great stories. I mean, it's awesome. His recruitment, you got verbal commits, you got recruiting, you've got possible regret and reluctance and all kinds of stuff with his whole recruiting and where he's going to school first and this and that. He tells great stories about that I highly recommend listening to. But above all that, he played basketball with Michael Jordan's son in high school for a couple years, and he tells an amazing and true story about Michael Jordan that you need to listen to because it's great. So I want to thank Ahmad for coming on, man. He was great. And again, this is just part one. Part two, we're shooting for Thursday night as long as the technology will allow it. So I hope you enjoy this part. Thank you, Ahmad, for coming on. He was excellent. So thank you for listening to Welcome to the Heath Barn. Enjoy this episode and hit it. All right. Well, Ahmad Starks, thank you very much for coming on, bud.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, how about we just kind of start from the beginning with you if you want to give everybody a little bit of a background, where you're from, just kind of like your upbringing, things like that, where you played, all that good stuff, and then maybe we can kind of go from there. But
Okay, no problem. I am from Chicago, born and raised, from the south side of the city. I grew up in a pretty good neighborhood on the south side. Early on, went to a private school called the Ancona School. It's in Hyde Park, probably 2 blocks away from Kenwood High School. Then later, after high school, I go to Whitney Young High School. Very well-known school on and off the basketball court. Had a lot of success there, had a lot of fun there. For college, I then venture over and play at Oregon State University for 3 years, and then I transferred to U of I. I went to school there for 2 years, but just played one for my final. I had to sit out 1 year, and I ended up playing after college. I played 5 years overseas, and now I am. Once I stopped, probably about 5 years ago now, I started training unexpectedly. I started training. Now professional basketball player that works with NBA players, WNBA players, all the way down to middle school kids. So it's been a fun ride of the game.
yeah, man, that's awesome. We'll get into every this kind of step by step, but maybe talk about growing up. Where I'm from, like right now where I live, if I look out of our back door, there's a cornfield. Okay, so to anybody around here that may listen to this episode, maybe explain a little bit about growing up and playing ball in Chicago.
I would say, it's very tough. It's very competitive. But it also made me. So like when growing up, I played in the league probably since I was I say I started maybe 7 or 8 playing in a league called Small Fry Basketball.
Yeah.
It was everything. It was everything for me. So it was very competitive. You had to be like 5 foot 1 inches tall at the tallest, playing on 8.5 foot rims. And a lot of people they laugh at that when they first hear it. It sounds like nothing, but there's a bunch of Chicago/Illinois greats that have played small fry, and it was a bunch of, just tough guards. Everyone's pretty much guards, but a bunch of tough guards that made you better. And you were competing against really good players.
Right.
Names like people would know: Derrick Rose, Will Bynum, Jerome Randall. Um, there's a D Brown, obviously
Hmm.
famous Illini great. So it's like there's a bunch of those caliber names that have come through, and you get the idea of guards that have come through that you were competing against. So it made you tough. It was you either had to, you either show you could play or you didn't belong in the game, pretty much.
Right.
So that was like my foundation for this. I started playing basketball at 2 years old.
Yeah.
Um, but then competitively around 5 and like bitty basketball leagues. And when I got to 7, 8, small fry comes around and it's a whole different ball game, and it made me fall in love with the game.
Right. So that
Mm-hmm.
small fry. Okay. Now explain that to me though. Is that like how big of a part of Chicago is that? I mean, or because yeah, I mean, is it just like a league like one little part of Chicago, or is it like the main? Like
It's
how
I
does all
would
that work in a
say
city that big?
it's kind of that's a good question. It's not really, it's kind of like in between what you said, like not really just one section, a park district thing, but it's also, I wouldn't say it's a whole citywide thing because a lot of people are still just playing their regular school ball or some AAU, but it was a pretty big thing in my time. I would also say, but so it's not just Chicago as well. So your main area is playing against Chicago teams, but you got suburban teams, you got Wisconsin teams, you have then you go to when you go down to Florida for the national championships or international championship, you have New York and New Jersey teams and also Puerto Rican teams.
The small
So
fry
it's
league has all that.
all of that, yes.
Oh
So
man,
it's
that's
all a big part. So early on, you kind of play against just your regions, and then once you get into the national championship part of it, you go down and you compete from teams from like New York, New Jersey, and Puerto Rico.
wow,
So
man.
yeah, I should mention that. So it's like great. So you go usually when I was coming up, it's a little different now. It's a lot of things have happened to kind of separate the groups, but separate the league. But you would go down to Orlando, Florida, play in the Wild World of Sports during spring break. Would be a big tournament. It would just be an amazing experience for kids
Yeah,
to have that along with great competition.
man, that's really cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, so I looked you up a little bit with your. Do you want to talk a little bit about when you were in high school, um, your junior year and senior year? Looks like you were very, very successful. Your teams were. So do you want to talk a little bit about your junior and senior year in high school and how well you guys did?
Yeah. So starting, I'll tell you a little tidbit at the beginning. So going to Whitney Young, I was super excited about. A lot of my AAU teammates and the guys that played above me in my AAU program went to Whitney Young, and so we're following the trend. The leader that Tyrone Slaughter, who's still the coach there now, got the job there, and it was a pathway to Whitney Young, and it was a promise that hey, we're gonna make this a national program. And the players that he was bringing in, we eventually did that. So my freshman year, we were just okay. I played on the JV team. I won the city championship, and varsity, we were just okay.
But
But
were you at Whitney Young all 4 years in high
yeah,
school?
all 4 years, yes.
Gotcha. I guess I
And
could backtrack just a sec though. Like, okay, so like middle school, where were you? I mean, what did that look
in,
like for you playing
in
in
middle
middle
school,
school?
that was a lot of that small fry basketball.
Gotcha.
At my elementary school was called the Ancona School,
Yeah.
in the Hyde Park neighborhood. I only played for my school team in 5th grade and 8th grade. Um, it wasn't, it's private school league, so it was barely any competition. Me
Yeah.
being at this time, I'm the number one player in the state of Illinois. I should probably add that.
Right.
At this time, I'm number one player in the state of Illinois, a top 40 player in the country. So early on, like I came with a big name.
Gotcha.
So I was always playing against as best competition as possible, and I really wanted to play in my school league.
Right.
And so 8th grade, I eventually play, and just to really play with my best friend Sam Thompson, who went to Whitney Young with me, played at Ohio State, and now is going on his 10th year playing pro.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chicago, we live in the same neighborhood. He's 2 blocks down from me, so that was a great thing as well. And he trains with me every day. So that I was able to play eighth grade, and that was fun. But besides that, it was pretty much the small fry basketball and AAU when I was as far as middle school, and we had a great AAU program in Ferrari basketball. So it was phenomenal, and so
Gotcha.
we were. That's pretty much what I was doing most of that my grammar school years.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So yeah, you can go ahead on with high school now. With
And then, oh yeah, Whitney. So freshman year, we're okay on the varsity level, but we knew we were building something. It
right.
was automatically changed when a lot of us came in the door. So I won a JV championship and varsity. We did okay. We did better than years past. Sophomore year, complete was the complete game changer for us. Obviously, the younger guys who we brought in, we get older, a year older, so we're gonna be good. But Marcus Jordan comes in.
Uh
So
huh.
Michael Jordan's son transfers
Really.
in as a junior,
Uh huh.
and it changed the game for us. To be
Right.
perfectly honest, like it wouldn't like not this, and I say that it obviously does because of the name that carried with him.
Mm-hmm.
It automatically carries the name, the attention, everything that we got. We're now sponsored by Jordan, everything, and we got really good players. Don't get me wrong. Like we're obviously myself a Division I player. Probably had like 7, 8. My championship team probably had 9 Division I players on it. So we
Man.
had real good overall, but it just took us to a whole new level as far as the attention and national powerhouse program.
Right.
So every year from my sophomore to my senior year, now we're ranked top 25 in the country.
Man.
So now we into that year. That first year that Marcus was there, he was a year ahead of me. So I got 2 years with him. That first we do pretty good, but we kind of underachieve as the number 1 team in the state. That comes with that. So the following year, we we end up like you said, junior year. We're starting 4 Division I guards again, but this was the best crop of them that we had over the years. We end up winning the state championship, and it was great.
Right.
Michael Jordan was there to watch Michael come to a good amount of games as he could. And but I
Yeah.
remember the state championship. I have actually a great story about that one, like being there, kind of celebrating with him when we won and everything. So that was cool.
Oh my. Yes.
Um,
So
and
okay.
so
So yeah. I mean, let's talk about that for a minute. Like, what first time you saw Michael Jordan? Were you did it change the way you were playing? Was everybody kind of I mean, just freaking out
I,
or what?
I could tell sometimes people got nervous and things because not a lot of people have been around him, of course. But I have been around since I was a kid. So I played against Marcus and his older brother Jeffrey as kids. Just at the camp, that small fry basketball, they also had a camp, and so they were always at that camp.
Yeah.
And so I'd known them. Then we were like they played on a rival AAU team. They played for Rising Stars. I played for Ferrari. So we would always meet up at these tournaments and they beat us sometime. I'll beat them, but it was a rival. So Mike would be at some of those games, and I knew just knew them from early on. But when he transferred, it became a different relationship.
Right.
And um, so the games I remember the first time he showed up at a game, it was a super big game. Like it was crazy. You could tell people were a little nervous,
Yeah.
more about him than the jam packed arena we were playing in.
Right.
And so it was interesting. But so the funny story, well, probably my best story today. One of the two of them is so we're in the state final. We're at the state finals. We beat a team that was 27. What was their record? They lost the first game of the season, and then they won 27 straight games to get to us at the
Right.
state final four. So we beat them downstate to go to the championship. Everybody in the locker room is jumping up and down, going crazy. Just feeling themselves right now. I mean, as you
Yeah.
should. As you said, a
Absolutely.
big win. We're going to state championship. Everybody's excited. But I probably was the most chill of us all, just because that's my personality. But it is what it is. And
Yeah.
so
Well, if
everybody
you
comes
know,
up.
you expect to win, right? So
We
you got that
exactly we
attitude.
expect to win. That's been me my whole life. But
Yeah.
also now, especially in our Whitney Young position, we are supposed to win this.
Right.
We're supposed to. So, but you said something to be excited about, and so everybody's going crazy. Then Coach Slaughter walks through the door, come talk to us. Michael Jordan's following right behind him,
Oh my.
and Mike is like, I don't know. Do I have to watch my language on the
No,
podcast?
no, you can say whatever you want, man.
Okay. Mike is like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Like, everybody sit the fuck down, be quiet. Like, y'all haven't won shit yet.
That's
Like,
exactly
just
right.
like that. Just
Yeah,
like that. Like, this wasn't a smiling matter either. Like, this wasn't a laughing matter. He was
right.
dead serious.
Oh, that's
He
great.
There was no smile on his face. And
Hmm.
so it was just like, at that point, man, sit the fuck down. You guys haven't won shit yet. We got another game tomorrow. And the locker room is quiet,
Yeah.
silent. Nobody said a peep the rest of the night. Like,
Oh man.
anything. Like it was, and I can't make it. It's like something that should be in a movie. Like,
Yeah.
but I can't make it up. Like, it was unreal.
Everybody's just. Oh my. Yeah, man.
Everybody's silent.
That is an amazing story,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, that's great.
Um,
And then what year was that? Was that your junior year? Or
so this is my junior year. This is 2009. Yep.
so, and then you
Um,
guys ended up winning it that year.
we ended up winning. So the next day,
Yeah.
um, so Marcus was my roommate on every trip,
Yeah.
and so we in the room silent. Like, nothing's going on. We might watch TV for a little bit, then we go to bed. But so we end up winning it. Shoot around was like crazy that day. Everybody's dunking, happy. But we end up winning the next day, celebrating everything. It was like an amazing feeling. So that lecture, paid it,
Oh, oh
paid
yeah.
off a little bit.
Oh my gosh. I would say, man, that's a. I would expect the Michael Jordan stories on this. That's great.
Nah.
Dang man. Um, okay, so then whenever you guys, then your senior year,
Yeah.
um, oh, I can tell just by the tone right there. You still don't like that. I saw that you got second state that year, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's hard. It's actually hard. I watched actually the video
Hmm.
again. I watched the game of us, the Final Four game going to that championship. I watched that like last week. And just I hit a game winning shot at the buzzer to go to the state championship. So
Yeah,
it was pulled up. Me and my friends were joking around about some things, so I pulled it up, and and so it's a little heartbreaking because this year we were more talented than the year before.
right,
More size, more natural talent, talented guys. We just didn't really put it together a lot of the year. Due to the number. I mean, we got up to number 8 in the country. Like, we started off 11-0. We were crazy, but there
right.
were some things. People got ineligible. People got injured.
Yeah,
Some things happened. So it's just unfortunate. But we went back downstate, made it back down. It was a crazy, crazy ride. State playoff run that I had some great performances in and some good team performances. We get back downstate. We lose to who everyone knows now of Jabari Parker and Kendrick Nunn,
right.
two guys that had played in the NBA. They were freshmen at the time, so they didn't have a huge impact, but they played in the game and
So
people
it,
we
it
knew.
was Simeon,
Yeah, we also semi state championship. Yeah,
right?
so that was the first of Jabari Parker's 4 straight championships.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of heartbreaking because I see Jabari all the time, and he's very aware that he shouldn't have won. Like, he shouldn't have 4 rings. It was just we were
Right,
super tired from the night before, but a win is a win.
right. Yeah. Well, um, man, yeah, that's a just to be able to. This sounds like you had some wonderful experiences in high school, man. That's great.
Great.
Let's talk a little bit about. Well, before, okay, I want to get into your recruiting and all that stuff, but one thing I want to talk about is
Mhm.
your mindset playing ball your whole life because you are extremely quick, extremely quick. But
Mhm.
you're listed at 5'9", right? So
Yeah.
be so playing ball like that your whole life. What's your mindset like? Playing in Chicago, playing undersized, not undersized because you're strong as hell and you're quick, but you know being a little smaller guard than everybody you're playing against. What kind of mindset have you had to have this whole time? And maybe if you can pass something along to other kids that are smaller guards and things like that, ways to help them out.
No problem. Yeah. So my mentality was like, to be honest, I didn't really notice it.
Yeah.
And I wish I did because it would actually have helped a coach I know, another Whitney Young coach now, like, was kind of brought that to my attention. Like, I wish I did really know, like, my size and for different reasons. obviously I knew, but just how big of a difference it was and how much that played into the game,
Yeah.
in people's eyes for the most part. But it's just the outlook on life. So I think that one, the good part about what I'm saying is to be fearless,
Right.
to not let that factor in, or that should nothing should worry you in that regard. You need to go out there and compete to the best of your ability. Work on your game. Also be a step ahead. So knowing this was my mentality, knowing that you are smaller, like, of what I didn't know, I know that you had to be a little bit special.
Right.
You have to do at least. We talk about this all the time. We have to do at least one thing special, and so exceptionally well. So for me, I would honestly say that I did three things really exceptional, from my shooting to my quickness, like you said, and then also just my IQ on the basketball floor.
Right.
I could even go with ball handling as a fourth, but I'll stick to those three. But me being smarter than most players, what takes you over the edge.
Absolutely.
So understanding the game on both ends at a high level, that allows you to work the room a little bit differently, to work the
Right.
court a little bit differently. So therefore, I'm a step ahead or two plays ahead of this guy who may be 6'2", 6'3".
Right.
I'm knowing how I'm quick, but I'm knowing how to use my quickness to get this advantage on either end. So it's things like that. So that's probably my biggest advice is, um that I can't just say, oh, be quick. That's just not how it works.
That's right.
But you can work on that. You can work on your athleticism and speed. But I would say to some people watching, study the game, be a student of the game. Number one,
Yeah.
figure out how to get your advantage by being smarter than other people. Work on your strength and also your jump shot.
Right.
Like, be the best shooter as you can be. That's obviously the name of the game is putting the ball in the hole.
Yep.
So there are all these other factors and coaches recruiting that we'll talk about next. Like, they obviously you want people who can pass, who can defend, which is, yes, you need to do those things. That's a part of the game. But the number one thing in basketball is putting the ball in the hole. I can't stress that enough. But
Yeah.
it can't be the only thing you think about unless that is specifically your role. But you still have to defend on the other end, so
Yeah.
still have to do it. But I
That's
cannot
how
stress
hey,
enough.
that's how they'd figure out who wins by who's got the most points. You get points by putting the
Exactly.
ball in the
That's
basket.
how that's how James Naismith made the game.
That's right.
The most points wins the game. So this is the number one thing in the game. So
Right.
therefore, I can't stress enough how to work on. Obviously, there are other skills, but work on your being able to shoot the ball,
Right.
especially in today's era.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Um,
Mm.
all right. So when did you kind of start hearing from colleges, and do you have any kind of recruiting stories or anything like that? And maybe what led you eventually to Oregon State?
Um, when did I start hearing from colleges? At the latest point, it was during my freshman year.
Right.
Was getting letters from schools and communication to my parents, and I got my first Division I offer during my freshman year, late in freshman year, from
Gotcha.
Valpo.
Gotcha.
So that was really good. I was excited about that, as excited I was gonna be, because I didn't really jump for joy at a lot, but I was
Right.
excited about that. It was good to know.
It's good to know that, especially when you're that young, that people are interested. My gosh, when
Yeah,
you're, and yeah, that's great.
exactly. So I was getting the interest from there, from other schools. Eventually started. So that was the first one. I forgot. It's a bunch of, probably, like, Clemson was a big one that goes a lot of letters. You just get letters growing up. Stanford,
Hmm.
and then later, probably my sophomore year, I remember. So Craig Robinson, he is Michelle Obama's brother,
Okay.
Barack Obama's brother-in-law. I grew up playing soccer with his son.
Okay.
And they played. They also went to another private school, so I played against them in the private school league as well. But had a long standing relationship with them.
Yeah.
Who So he was at Brown University when I was a sophomore.
Okay.
Yeah, that should be my sophomore. So he was at Brown. I remember walking through the door one day, and he called. He called my dad. My dad was on the phone with him, and he's like, "Hey, Ahmad, and it wasn't illegal because we've had a relationship. So it's like, hey, Ahmad, like I'm at Brown. I would recruit you here, but I won't because, I know you'll be too good for us. So I'm looking to make a move soon, and you'll definitely be one of the first people I call. You'll hear from me. And
Okay.
so he ends up going to Oregon State
Gotcha.
in the pack, and that's pretty much bar none the reason I went there.
Gotcha.
My dad really wanted me to play for someone he know. He liked the idea of me, playing for. There's not. It wasn't especially at the ton. There wasn't a ton of them then. There's not a ton of them now. I guess for an African American coach and someone we
Right.
just knew. Someone we also knew had a relationship that would hopefully have my best interest on and off the court.
Yep.
And so I know my dad was liking that, and I wasn't so gung ho over it.
Gotcha.
Um, and me and my dad kind of got into it a little bit at the time about it, and I just wasn't. And this is
Well,
early too, so I'm
where were
not
you?
even.
Where were you wanting to go?
I was still young, so I just wanted to go through the process.
You were only a sophomore when all this was going on.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was a
Yeah.
sophomore, and we took a visit. Maybe we took the day Derrick Rose got drafted. I was at Oregon State taking the unofficial. So I remember watching the draft there. But it's like I said, this was I hadn't even become a junior yet,
Yeah.
so I'm getting great attention. So like, man, let's see where it goes, especially in that era. It's a little different today's world,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah.
especially at that time, like let's see where it goes.
Right.
I want to go through the process and take my visits, and I never know where I was gonna end up.
Right.
Try to find the best situation. So
Plus, you
I
still got your
ended.
junior year where you're gonna keep improving, and
Yeah, like
yeah.
I
So
hadn't
who knows?
even gotten to high school with the ball in my hand. I had a good AU year for sure, but now you got your junior AU season. It's like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
Like I got my junior year as the starting point guard in high school. Then I got 17 under AU. Like I'm about to take off,
Right.
and I played phenomenally.
Yeah.
Obviously won a state championship, had a good year with high school, and then had a phenomenal year on the AAU team. Phenomenal. We were like number 2 in the country.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was like, man, like this is kind of why I didn't want to be committed. Because
Right.
I actually take a step back. I did verbally commit to Oregon State in August before my junior year
Okay. Gotcha.
started. And
Now, was that reluctantly in your mind, or were you happy with that?
to be honest,
Yeah.
a little bit. I didn't think that my dad would steer me wrong. It was just not the way I wanted to go about it.
Yeah. You
Even
want to be
then,
wine and dine a little bit your junior and senior year. Take some visits and all that stuff.
yeah, I
You
just
know.
want to take some visits and just see some experiences. Like
Right.
and that's kind of the way I think. I want to see my options and then make a sound decision. That was all.
Mm-hmm.
Even, you know what I'm saying? Like, and yes, people want that, but like even less about the wine and dining. I just wanted to make a sound decision.
Right.
So that was heavy on my mind. Um, so I was a little upset about that, but it was whatever.
Right.
We're gonna do it. So,
So your
um,
junior and senior year, those whole all those 2 years, you are already committed to Oregon State.
yep, I was verbally committed during that
Gotcha.
whole next year.
Gotcha.
And when I tell you when the AAU season comes back around, I'm killing.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing the best basketball of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm getting here comes USC, here comes Cal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they're trying to like sneak in the back door.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm going to LeBron James camp and doing well. And now I'm ranked 28th in the country on one website.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole different ball game.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Um, and they're calling. So my idol guy I mentioned earlier, Jerome Randall.
Mm-hmm.
He played in the NBA a little bit, but great player at Cal. He's the all-time leading scorer at Cal.
Yeah.
Um, he's like a he was like a brother to me. Lived with
Mm-hmm.
me for a little bit while he was in high school. He's like, man, they really want you. Coach is saying da da da. And like as a kid, you're like, man, you're one of your idols
Yeah.
is like, like is wants you to come and follow behind him at his school, a really good school at that. Like that's hard to pass up.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't just gonna jump, but I'm like, I gotta at least think about this.
Hmm.
And so there was a whole thing, and I know Craig Robinson, he had found out, and he was upset, and it was a lot. And I think I just, I think I just folded and was like, all right, I'm gonna stay with my commitment.
Gotcha.
And
I'm
whether
gonna.
that's right or that's wrong, like I really,
Yeah.
that's why I wanted to be in a position to make a clear-headed, sound decision from the beginning.
Right. I'm gonna ask you a tough question right now. Do you any regrets about going to Oregon State?
I don't regret going to Oregon State. I spent 3 years there. Like I had a lot of fun. I set the all-time leading three-point record while I was there.
Right.
It was just the beginning process was just
Yeah.
and it could have possibly been a better fit for me somewhere else,
Right.
possibly. But Coach Robinson did give me an opportunity to be myself. He wanted me to flourish there.
Right.
The system the system wasn't really necessarily to my like advantage, but we made it work.
Yeah.
I could play in many different systems, so it wasn't. I won't even say not to my advantage. There may have been a better system out there, but I obviously, had success there, and I liked my time there. Make no mistake about it.
Right.
Loved
Gotcha.
my time there actually.
So, Cal, like your junior and senior year, um, there were no other schools that were really making you
Cal
question.
and USC were the biggest ones.
Yeah.
I can't even, to be honest, I can't even remember who else had made a push. I want to say was it Oklahoma? It might have been Oklahoma or somewhere. I just can't remember. But it was a few others that definitely called.
Yeah.
But those are the ones that are on my mind. Especially I like Cali. I like LA. I like Cali. It was big on my mind.
Right.
Jerome was there. USC, Kevin O'Neal.
Yeah.
Um, so they wanted to talk in Vegas and the hotel, and my parents were trying to be on the straight and narrow. And I'm like, man, let's go. Kevin O'Neal was Kevin O'Neal was offering people money behind the scenes at that time.
Right.
Now we can talk about now it's a whole different ball game with the money and
Oh
everything.
my gosh. Yes. That's a whole
But
nother.
yeah. So Kevin O'Neal was offering people money behind. I'm like, man, we gotta take this meeting. And they end up signing, which is crazy. They end up signing a guy like Maurice Jones, who was a very small guard like me.
Right.
And I could have had that. And
Yeah.
Nikola Vucevic, that's on the Bulls, was there at the time.
Yes.
They had a pretty good year. So I played against Nikola 1 year, but it was just I just wish I had the time to. I wish I had my Bazina straight. I could have made a sound decision just without any of the Oregon State thing already there. But it is what it is. I had a good time there. I did.
Right. Gotcha. Um, well, whenever you were going from high school to college, just that level of competition, what was the biggest adjustment you felt like when you first showed up there in college and started playing ball, like as far as from high school to college?
The biggest adjustment was, and I tell my kids this all the time, literally, probably every day. Just the speed of the game, the pace of the game. Like
Yeah.
one, obviously, just one learning your team's style of play. There's a whole different adjustment. So now you're not playing Chicago basketball anymore. Unfortunately, at Whitney Young, we had a decent system. You know what I'm saying? I understood the game, but also coaches who understood the game.
Right.
And it's not just
Probably had
like,
more freedom too. I'm guessing, like in high school. I mean,
yeah, like
for you to
naturally
be
you do
you,
have more because you just have, I don't know what to say. Like it's not a real structured thing.
right?
Normal high school basketball, especially CPS basketball, is not super structured.
Yeah.
And and that's not always the worst thing in the world, but college is a different type of game.
Yes.
You need to learn something. You need to have defensive principles and offensive, systems. So there's a different knowledge of the game that needs to be there. And so learning that, learning the Princeton offense, learning the defensive schemes and things
Is
like
that
that,
the
how this
offense you
coach.
guys had at Oregon State, the
Yes,
Princeton
that was the
offense?
Princeton offense. Yep, because Craig
Really?
Robinson went to Princeton.
I didn't realize that.
Yep, he played for Steve Carell at Princeton, and
Gotcha.
so we ran the Princeton offense.
Yeah.
Um,
What'd you think of
so
that?
it was very very slow to me. He
Yeah.
wanted to play faster when we got there because he recruited a whole different crew. He
Yeah.
didn't recruit like Princeton style offense typical players. So he recruited these fast, athletic players. So
Well, that's not what Princeton had, and that's why Princeton ran the offense. Yeah.
exactly, like, and that's kind of the point. And so
Right.
I do think that's like there are principles you can take from that and styles you can play because the Warriors did a lot of that
Yeah.
when they still do, but they definitely were doing their own versions of things when they were winning. They were a dynasty,
Yeah.
running that type of stuff. So
Right. I mean, a lot of just running. I mean, Steph Curry runs 5 miles every game, just running off pit, but a lot of running.
exactly.
But I mean, yeah, those old. I'm just thinking back to watching Princeton play back in the day, and that was all, just back doors and all that kind of.
Yeah, but to be honest, that like benefits Steph Curry.
Right.
That benefits a Klay Thompson in his prime.
Oh my gosh, yes,
So it's
absolutely.
like screens after screens and handoffs behind. Like you got a Draymond Green who's ready to pass up his shot and go set a screen for you to shoot.
Yeah.
That's like phenomenal. That's what that stuff you should be running, obviously,
Absolutely.
and they won with that.
Yeah.
So you just have to have the personnel for it,
Right. Yes.
and that's all. So that's all I was thinking about, and I think so. That was an adjustment, both sides of the floor there, but the pace of the game. So the pace of the game, meaning these guys are playing so much harder because they're forced to, and they're taller, they're more athletic, they're stronger than when you just came from Chicago.
Right.
And that's what I meant. Also, I didn't know that I was small until then, like
Gotcha.
being in the locker room with even my own guys, and then you got to compete with the other team.
Yeah.
But even my own guy, we got 6'9", 6'10", 6'11". My other guards are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5",
Mm-hmm.
and those are adjustments. Now I got to get my shot off that much quicker, and I was pretty good at that early on, regardless. But now you're just more aware of it.
Right.
Now I'm going to the hole, and this isn't a 6'5" out of shape big from Chicago. This is a six
Right.
nine, 6'10", 11 athlete when I'm at the rim.
Yeah. Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's a major difference.
Right. I do feel like though with you, it's you're a point guard. You got such a high basketball IQ, but there's so many kids at high school to college. So much of it is mental and just learning. You feel like the game until you get to college, and they break you down, and you're learning all this new stuff. And so much of it is just having to be smart too. You got to learn so many things. It's not just the physical part; it's the mental part. I mean, but you as a point guard and be already knowing the game so well and having such a high basketball IQ, that puts you ahead of a lot of other freshmen showing up in college because
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
so much of it's mental, just showing up in college and playing ball. I think, but
A ton of it. No, like at any level.
yeah,
At
yeah,
any level. So you are 100% right there.
yeah. Um,
Okay, we're going to stop this episode right there. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Keep your eyes peeled for part 2. Again, shooting for Thursday night with that one. That part we pick up right where we left off right here. We talk about brings them to Illinois. Overseas stories are always amazing. My son even hops on and asks him the question. So, again, much, much more to come from Ahmad Starks here in a couple days. But hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, thanks, Ahmad. And look out for part 2 here in a couple nights. So, thank you for listening. And that's that.